Hello Year 4. Today we're going to have a look at writing halves, quarters and 3/4 as a decimal. So to start off with, we're going to pretend that I've drawn these pictures to show half, quarter and 3/4 really accurately, and that all of these pieces in each one are exactly the same size. They are equal sized pieces. Okay? So half is 1 out of 2 equal sized pieces. A quarter is 1 out of 4 equal sized pieces, and 3/4 is 3 out of 4 equal sized pieces. So first thing we're going to do is look at how to find half, quarter and 3/4 of a number. We can find it of a shape. We're now going to have a look at finding it of a number, which we have done before, but no harm in recapping it. So if I wanted to find half of 8, then I need 2 groups. My denominator is 2. I need 2 groups. So 1, 2. 2 groups. And I need 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 4 in each group, and I want one of my 2 groups. One of my 2 groups. There's the red one that works. Nope. This is the red pen that works. So one of my 2 groups, or not, one of my 2 groups is 4. 4 in one of those groups. And I can do that with any other number as well. If I want to find a quarter of a number, when we have quarters we split it into 4 groups. So I need 4 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I wanted to find 1/4 of 8, then I've got my 4 groups, and I will be wanting one of those groups. Neither of my red pens now work. These are purple. So I'm wanting one of my 4 groups when I've finished. Okay? 1 out of the 4 groups. So 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Making sure I'm sharing it equally, because equal sized groups need to share the dots equally between my groups. So 1/4 of 8 equals 2. Or I could just do 8 divided into 4 groups. 4 groups. 8 divided by 4, we know what that is. It's 2. Okay? So, if I wanted to find 3/4 of 8, we do the same thing. So, 3/4 of 8. So, I have got 4 groups that I want to find. 4 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I will want to know 3 of those groups. My numerator is now 3. I want 3 out of the 4 groups. 3 out of the 4 groups. So, then I'm finding it of 8. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, 2, 4, 6 is 3 of those groups. 6. Now, I had already found a quarter. I already knew, actually, that a quarter was 2, and I just wanted 3 of those quarters, so I could have just done 2 times 3 equals 6. So I could have found a quarter. 8 split into 4 groups equals 2, and then times that number by the number of quarters I wanted. Could have done that too, but pictures also work. So that's how we do that. So what we're going to look at for finding these as a decimal. Now, we can already write fractions of 100 as a decimal. We know already that 56 out of 100 pieces I can write as 0.56. It's 5/10, 6/100, hundredths, tenths, ones, 0.56. I can write 1/100th as 0.01. Okay, we can already write hundredths as a fraction and as a decimal. So what we're going to do is find out half, quarter and 3/4 as a fraction of 100, because then we can convert that into a decimal, and we can do that already. Okay, so let's first start off with, let's find half of 100. Okay, so half of 100. Now, I can't be bothered really to put 100 into two different groups of dots, but I can find half of 10 quite easily. I can do that. So there's my two groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So half of 10 is 5. Half of 100 would be 50. If each of these dots instead were groups of 10, so these were 10 instead, I would have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. 50 in each group, and I can show you that on base 10 as well. I'm just going to move the screen slightly so I can show you this. So here is my 100, we can see that, and then I'm going to get 1, 2, 4, 5 in that colour, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that colour. Okay, so let's see if we know that 10 tens fit in 100, and half of 10 is 5. So if we look at this, I'm split my 100 into two equal groups. Half of 100 is 50. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Half of 100 is 50. Okay? So that means, so if half of 100 is 50, that means that 50 out of 100 pieces, as we just looked at, is the same as a half. We've just looked at that. Now, and I can write, so I'm going to write like this, half equals 50 over 100, which we've just looked at. And I can write 50 over 100 as a decimal. 0.50. And I don't need that 0, so I can just get rid of that. 0.5. Half is the same as 0.5 as a decimal. And we've worked that out. So let's have a look at a quarter. So I want to find 1/4 of 100. I need to split my 100 into 4 groups. And again, I'm going to cheat a bit on the maths because I can't be bothered to put 100 into 4 little circles. It will take ages, and I know faster maths to do that. So I can see here that a quarter is half of a half. So actually, if half of 100 is 50, so half of 100 is 50, a quarter of 100 must be half of 50, which I know is 25 because we can count in 25s. So a quarter of 100 is 25. If you want to at home, you can draw the circles and do the dots for 100. That is fine if you want to see it like that. It's not a problem. But to start off with, let's have a look at it with the base 10 again. So let's see. Here we go. So I have got, let me see the 100. There we go. There is 100. So I am going to try. I can't colour code this exactly, so we're just going to have to go with it. 4, 5. So if I have got 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's 125. I'm then going to get another 2 10s. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. and the 5 ones will just finish this 10 off here. So there are 2 25s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 2 25s are 50. So let's just finish that off with another 25. 20 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 25. 3 25s. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 75. 3 quarters of 100 is 75. We're going to need that in a minute. So, and another 25. Let's just check. Can we have 4 equal groups of 25 in 100? Is 25 a quarter of 100? Did my quick maths work? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, there we go. 4 knocking bits of base 10 off. There we go. So, 4 25s equal 100. I've got 1 25, 2 25s, 3 25s, 4 25s. 4 25s in 100. So, that means, I've just covered my pens. That means that a quarter of 100 is 25. So, that means I know that 25, a quarter, is equal to 25 out of 100 pieces, as we just looked at. And I can write that as a decimal. That is the same as 0.25. Can do that. So a quarter is the same as 0.25. So let's have a look at 3 quarters and how we would write 3 quarters as a decimal. So 3 quarters, I've already found a quarter. So if 1 quarter is 25, we can count in 25s. 25, 50, 75. Let's have a look at here. 25, 50, 75. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 75. Okay, so 3 quarters of 100 equals 75. Again, if you want to draw circles at home and work this out for yourself, feel free to do that. Okay, so 3 quarters of 100 is 75. That means that 3 quarters is the same as 75 out of 100 pieces, as we just looked at. And I can write that as a decimal. I know that that is 0.75. 0 wholes, 7 tenths, and 5 ones. 5 hundredths, rather. Okay, so 3 quarters is the same as 0.75. Okay, so if you have a look at the PowerPoint, it will go through that again, give you a chance to work it out yourself if you want to, and then there are some questions at the end to make sure you know it. Okay, basics of this lesson is, even if we're chanting it, a half is 0.5, a quarter is the same as 0.25, and 3 quarters is the same as 0.75. All right, it's why if you look at a ruler, I've only got the metre ruler in distance, and you look here at the millimetres, so here's the centimetres. We'll look at this one because that one's a bit worn there. We'll look at this one. Do you see here in this centimetre here, there's a slightly longer line for 5 millimetres? That's because 5 millimetres is half of the 10 millimetres. It's half a centimetre. So we could write that as 0.5, okay? 1.5 centimetres, 1.5 centimetres. All right, so it can be helpful knowing that. So 50 centimetres, 50 out of 100, 0.5 metres. 25 centimetres, 25 out of 100 equal pieces, 0.25 metres. 75 centimetres, 75 out of 100 equal pieces, 0.75 metres. Okay, so it works for all of that as well. Okay, so have a go, and you can always email me if you get stuck.